And welcome to the latest edition of the 941 Sports Zone. I'm Spitz. He's John Wire to Wire Masoni, and I know he's not calling horse racing. I believe he's talking about the U.S. Open out at Shinnecock.
I watched it wire to
John, how you
wire.
doing?
That's what I did.
Oh, you
I just
watched
watched
it wire. Oh, my God.
I don't want to give it too long, but I did wire. Wyndham Clark did a little bit headier thing than I did, but yes, I did watch pretty steadily from Thursday to Sunday. I think the tournament with Shinnecock, we'll talk about it here in a second. It's great theater in regards to the golf course itself. Maybe not so much for the crowds, but nonetheless, it's great theater.
Yes,
and it's a pretty cool venue. And expectation obviously is that they're not going to be many big guys under par, which I kind of like to watch.
Yes. So, yeah, we'll hit all of that. We have some kind of breaking news. We are recording this on Monday afternoon. I almost wish we were doing it on Tuesday afternoon because we would have more breaking news. But we'll get into all of that. NBA drafts coming up. The World Cup is moving right along. We'll talk about the race. We got a lot to discuss. And as always, the 941 Sports Zone presented by Mighty Dog Roofing of Southwest Florida, locally owned and nationally backed, delivering exceptional roofing for homes and businesses up and down the Gulf Coast. 941-251-4257 is the number. 941-251-4257. Well, it is official. Wyndham Clark went wire to wire. It was a lot more exciting on Sunday than I certainly thought it would be. As a matter of fact, I didn't jump in on Sunday till about 3:45, 4 o'clock, when all of a sudden I was like, wow, the lead's down to 2. It ended up getting down to 1 a couple of times. But in the end, Wyndham Clark made the shots that he had to make. And the 6-shot lead he had going into Sunday, he needed every single one of them, John.
Yeah, and listen, Rich, I'll be honest with you. I heard everybody the day before saying this will be a massive problem if he loses, and they showed history of guys who had these big leads and whatever it may be. Not on that golf course, just not on that golf course. They're double and triple bogeys on every hole, and I thought that to be that brazen and say because Wyndham Clark. No, it was not the case. Look what happens. He started the day 7 under. He goes down to 5, and a guy that's even or whatever goes up to 3. You're 2 strokes, and that's ball game right there. Now you're in the midst of a tussle, especially with Clark. If he's coming down psychologically, you got to think there's some panic, and the guy on the up has got adrenaline flowing. You want to be that guy at that point. I thought that though when he did sort of stumble a bit, he went back to his game plan. And I think the one thing about Shinnecock's setup this year that was not the same, and you heard it from Corey Pavin in an interview and a couple other guys, how wide the fairways were. Now there was a lot of the primary rough, which wasn't the fescue or whatever, was it the thick rough, was manageable. I wouldn't say it was easy, but it was manageable. But those wide fairways, there was a lot of guys sitting out of fairways. Didn't make it any easier though, Rich, because those greens are all tricked up. They're elevated. They got false fronts, bunkers, rocks in the bunkers, all different stuff like that. That just sort of make every shot or potential shot a challenge. But he kept the ball in the fairway for the most part, made some shots, spectacular shots when he had to. But the tee to green, he was the best guy, and he was also the best guy with the blade, with the putter. So I mean, he had everything going his way early on. He came back to earth, but he just had enough left in the tank to capture his second U.S. Open, and deservedly so. Not only did the course sort of get him, or was it challenging? When the fans were there, they were definitely on his case, more so on Sunday than on the other 3 days. But he fought through it, and he's a winner, and he deserves every bit of it.
Yeah, no question about it. I thought it was interesting. First off, the USGA did something that I don't know they've done in a very long time, and you're more of a pro at this than I am. The fact that they watered the greens on Tuesday and Wednesday in particular, and kept them. I kept hearing the numbers 10 and a half, 11 on the stemp meter. When I believe the last time they were there, it was in the 13 to 14 range. Shots weren't being held that were hit perfectly onto the green the last time, and it looked certainly more favorable, although the conditions on the weekend, as they should have, got much tougher.
Right.
And I honestly thought Clark won this tournament on Saturday. I thought Saturday he was spectacular. I know he ended up only shooting, a 70, okay? And he was 7 under. He actually had got it to 8 under and bogeyed 18. But some of the saves he made on Saturday, John, were nothing short of legendary. I mean, he made a couple of up and downs that, they were asking. I know I listened to a lot of this on the radio on Sirius XM, because I was doing a lot of traveling over the weekend, and I think they are much more descriptive. I really like the coverage on Sirius XM, and they would, Fred Albers was the guy on the course, and I actually know Fred from living in El Paso. I wouldn't say I'm great friends with him, but we had a cup of coffee or two together when I was there for 4 years in the 90s. And Fred, he would be like, what's the up and down percentage on this, generally speaking? He'd be like 2 of 10, 3 of 10. And, he would get up and down. And to me, the fact that he had the lead was because he played so well on Saturday. What do you say to that?
I agree, because I'll go one further. Not even from the scrambling perspective, he eagled 16 on
yes,
Saturday.
That was huge.
Just unbelievable. That's the only
Footer.
eagle on that. It's a 600 plus yard par 5, and he goes ahead and he eagles it with takes the line that nobody else took, just to the right of the flag, which bring the bunker in, which had been a short side him with a bunker shot. Didn't go too far. He just made a lot of great play shots. Thought his way around. He had a definite game plan from the get-go. A little him and his caddy. The caddy won an award for best caddy or whatever you want to call it for the U.S. Open. But no, I think you're right. And going back to your initial statement of saying how they kept the greens at a 10.5 to 11. That's what you're going to play at the local club, is 10.5, 11. Now when they break out for the member championship or whatever, they go to 13, 14, and it browns it out. Okay. Right. And I think what happens with a golf course like that, when you've got 25, 30 mile an hour winds out exposed to all that stuff, and you got a 13 or a 14 on the stimp meter, you can't keep a ball on the green. Number 11, if you saw the beginning of the coverage early in the week, they were all about number 11, because number 11, that was the quote. They said it's the easiest. It's the par 3 number 11 at Shinnecock is the easiest par 5 on the course.
Yes, I heard the reference made more than once.
Because if you go deep and to the left, looking at it, it's almost an impossibility to get it up, because you've got to get it up on top of there and then hold it from not going back in the bunker on the other side, which they were doing in the last time they were there, going back and forth and going back and forth. A little bit of water didn't hurt anything. As a matter of fact, I will say this to you. These guys are used to playing 13, 14 on the stimp meter. So for them to have a bomb a putt where you got to really get into it, you saw a lot of putts miss short. A lot of putts, especially when they had the line and they were trying to hit some feathery little shot down there with a little, like a little half a putt jab, whatever. And they didn't have it in them. They're not used to being able to have to hit it a little harder downhill or whatever it may be. So I don't think it made it. I think it made it fair. If you heard, I think it's Mike Wan, who's the head of the USGA. He said, I told everybody, let Shinnecock be Shinnecock. Mm-hmm. We don't need to mess with this and try to trick it up like we do other courses. We don't need to do that. And right. They were right. It led to some decent scoring, but nonetheless, 3 guys under par.
Exactly.
So it wasn't. And Wyndham Clark with this outstanding 4 days. Sam Burns kind of hung around and then put the pedal to the metal down yesterday to go 3 under. And 1 under was who am I forgetting? But there was a third guy at 1 under.
Tom Kim, the other birthday boy that nobody talked about.
Right. Tom Kim, who's had a terrible year. Matter of fact, maybe
Mhm.
a terrible 18 months, where he's sort of becoming in the 140s as far as his ranking in the world and everything. So, but 3 guys. So if you're talking about 3 guys going under par, I think the reputation of Shinnecock was held up very nicely, even if they did put some water on the greens to kind of make them not be impossible to hit as far as on some of the shots.
And then Scotty had a nice Saturday, put himself in position, got himself to play with Clark. I thought that would be more impactful than it actually was. Scotty just couldn't get anything going. And to me, he made some really good shots. But in my opinion, at the end, especially on Sunday, John, and again, this is a complete rank amateur talking here, but I thought his putter failed him on Sunday. I really did, because he had a couple of makeable putts. I mean, were they 5-foot kick-ins? No, but you've got to make a couple. Sam Burns made some putts, and he put some pressure on. He got the 3 under. Scotty had some putts to be made, and he couldn't get them to fall.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this. That Poa annua, as the day goes on, gets bumpy. It sort of grows the way it grows. Again, I'll go back to the local club. You'll go out there and you say to yourself, "Oh, that's a cup outside right." You read it. Everybody else looks at it. Boom! It does. All of a sudden, it doesn't break. You're like, "What the hell was that?" It can be inconsistencies in how it's mowed. Green to green is not consistent a lot of times at the home course. And in this case, it wasn't so much that was inconsistencies. It was a matter of fact that grass will grow up. So you're going and you're trying to bleed a putt into the back of the cup. You read it right, and it gets to the hole, and it goes at the hole one time, and the next time it goes this way. You saw Burns is the last putt with Burns. He got a read. To get the read on the same line and to go 4 under. On that putt, and he hit it exactly where he wanted to, but the pace was a little slow. It got to the cup, but when it got to the cup, boom, it dove right. And I'm not saying that he didn't read it right. I'm just saying that Poa annua might have been growing around that hole a little bit, and that's all it takes. Sometimes it sounds funny, but when they make the hole every day, they dig it out. They dig it out, and they put that grass in the old hole from yesterday or whatever else. Then they have to tamp it down so that it's even. Now, when the green is like this, all wangly, what are you tamping down? You know what I mean? So it's really, you can get some odd little moves here and there, especially when as it slows down, it's not going to roll true. It's going to go where it's going to go. And that one with Burns, it moved, half an inch, and he caught the edge still, and you thought it would fall, but it didn't. It went a little right, and that's how close it was. When guys were making putts, Rich, they weren't bleeding him in there. There were some chip ins that were going 100 miles an hour, and they hit the flag.
Yes.
They were going to stay online. Scotty's chipping where you have a fist bump on Saturday to kind of get him rolling on the end of his round. That thing was moving. That was not going to be an easy comeback putt if he didn't hit that flag. So I think the course being a little bit, as far as the greens being a little slower, and I think the type of grass that grows out there, again, if you're feeding it a little water, it's going to grow a little weird the rest of that day. If you're feeding it nothing, it's going to turn into like
skating
flat.
rink. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's why they said let Shinnecock be Shinnecock. Basically, was because Shinnecock can be just as hard at a 14 or at an 11 as a 14, and without water or with water. I think it's the same course. The wind is going to always be the major factor.
And I thought it was very interesting as well that the late afternoon guys who were thought to be at a disadvantage on Thursday turned out to be in the advantageous position. And they got to go right out Friday morning. So they got the late early, and the late early were all the guys at one point on Friday. The leaderboard showed the a threesome was actually first, second, and third on the leaderboard. Now, it's amazing that one of those didn't even make the cut, but the late early was definitely better on Thursday, Friday, and that turns out to be where most of your leaderboard was.
Yes, and I picked Rory to be my guy, and he had the worst draw. He had
Yes.
a really bad draw because he got the earlier that first round he was struggling, and he got the worst of it, and it just wore him down. Eventually, it wasn't so much he got a bad draw on Saturday or Sunday. His end of his Saturday round going into Sunday, he lost it, and it wasn't anything that was dramatic. It was his iron play was very, very, very erratic. He missed deep. He missed in spots he shouldn't miss with 112, 115 yards to go. He needs to be sticking that thing wherever he wants within 5 feet, and he never really got on a roll after that.
You know, it's interesting. Saw him after the round on Sunday, and he basically said Shinnecock won. He looked like a guy that had just been in a 15-round fight. I mean, and that's what this course does. It's mental on you. And going back to Wyndham Clark, when he missed that short putt on 17, about the 4-footer to make par, and he bogeyed, and suddenly it was one shot, and Burns grabbed his clubs and started hitting balls on the practice range. And then, like I said, I was listening on the radio because I was coming back from my Father's Day dinner, and they were talking about the shot that he made. First of all, he didn't think he got enough of it to get it on the green, which he did. But they were saying that was the slowest putt on the golf course, and that they were afraid he was going to, leave it himself, 5 feet to try to win the tournament. And he put it up there cozy. Best after missing that other putt, he just basically put it out of his mind and hit probably the best putt he did all week.
They said, obviously, you're 100% right. They had said how that was going to be, it was straight up the hill. And with the pressure on you, the tendency is to leave everything short because you don't want to go blasting it by. That would have given him, coming back, he would have been downhill. He hit a lag putt to the absolute perfect distance. It surprised it didn't go in, to be honest with you, but it was unbelievable to have that 2-incher to finish out the tournament. And that just showed you that he was just like Scotty, they're going to focus on Scotty. I get it. He's a very popular golfer, and rightfully so. He's entertaining. He hits kind of these wild ass shots all the time. Does whatever he's doing. But you see the pressure on Scotty a lot more than you saw on Clark about when he got to about 11, 12, 13. In those holes, you're like, look like Scotty was the one pressing. Looked like Clark was the one playing golf. He looked like him and his caddy were going through their process. They went through everything, and I think the one thing he didn't have to worry about was his putting, because I think he felt totally dialed in. He even said he fell in love with it. He has a ping putter that that he got an exclusive to it or whatever they said. He's absolutely in love with his putter right now, and I think he felt like if he was on the green, he was two putting 90% of the time, which is outstanding, especially on those greens. So again, tip of the cap to him. He's got he well-deserved championship, and now he's a 2-time U.S. Open champion, which there's not many of them. I think there's 24, they said, 23, 24. So definitely deserve it. I don't think anybody on that golf course looked back and said, "Oh, I got robbed" or whatever. They got beat by Wyndham Clark. Everybody else was second or whatever after that. So
full disclosure too, at the end of the tournament, no idea his dad was there. That was pretty damn cool at the end. That he all of a sudden he made eye contact with his father, and he just was like, I think all of the emotion finally just poured out. And good on him. Good on him. And listen, like you said, there were people openly rooting against him, and even Scotty Scheffler after the match was like, "That's ridiculous." I know people were rooting for me, but the fact that you were openly rooting, a guy hits the ball in the bunker and you're clapping, is just beyond ridiculous. And I know, John, I know you, as much of everything as you are with golf, you are about etiquette, and that was about as bad a etiquette as and we're both from New York, about as bad a etiquette as New Yorkers shown in a while.
The Ryder Cup, they got very caught up in that a year or so back. There's still people wanting to chant USA, USA after Rory hits a bad shot. Rory is the face Now Scotty's the number one player in the world. I get that, but Rory is the guy who fought the fight against Liv, did all
Yes.
different things. He has embraced the tour. Rory could go back and do like a Lee Westwood did when Lee Westwood was the biggest European golfer going for 10, 12 years. He played most of it. He was playing a lot over in Europe. Rory stays home. He plays his tournaments and then he really stays back home. I think he has a place in Florida, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm. He
and
does.
he does his thing, and so and I think he's like, whatever, rolls his eyes a little bit or whatever it may be, but it's dumb, it's ignorant. I don't want to say that, but it's just you don't know what's really going on if you're really going to scream USA USA at the guy in a Ryder Cup when these guys all travel together like a carnival. They're all pals and buddies, and you're going to make it out to be some bloodbath. It's not that way. It's just not. You can't take that. You can't take the mentality that you have at the hockey game and apply it to the golf course. They don't have the same. There's not the same situation. Sure, root for your guy, like Scotty said, but do you have to be anti the other guy or anti a European player or whatever it may be? No, not so much. Now, if you said to me, "Oh, I'm anti-Liv because they're trying to destroy the PGA," all right, I got you. I could see that being something, but just to go against the guy because you want Scotty to win, not so much.
Yeah, total meh as far as I'm concerned. All right. So next week they go to Cromwell, Connecticut, and the winning score will be in the mid-20s again, and everybody will be okay. And because that usually is, and it's a signature event. Rory's already said, I'm not going, and he'll pay whatever fine it is, because I think this is his third one he's missing, the third signature event. I think you're allowed to only miss one, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, he already paid a fine before, so
still, nonetheless. Yeah, and he don't care. He don't care. Because, first of all, he's got all that money from the Masters. He's like, sure, here you go. Money. That's no big deal.
There's another level with golfers. I mean, there's guys that are tour favorites. They're out, JT Poston and all those different guys you see out there that are competitive. They pay 25, 26 times a year maybe. I can't tell you how many times. They play a lot of golf. Rory doesn't need to do that. Rory's got all set up nice for himself. Look, he's part owner of the indoor golf scenario now.
Yep.
He makes a lot of money when he's out there on the tour. But those guys we're talking about, even the Jordan Spieths now still out there. He's not playing great. He's playing better, but he's not playing great. But they're advertising everything. They look at their shirts, look at everything, and you'll see how they're making their money off the course. The money.
Oh boy, John's a little frozen right now. Hopefully he'll come back in a second. Anyway, they're going to Cromwell, and then of course they're going to let me see if I can get it right here. Royal Birkdale, starting on July 16th. So hopefully that will be, that'll be the final. It's hard to believe, but by July 20th, they're going to be
like, I can. Hey. So he makes plenty of money, Rich. He has nothing to worry about. He's A-okay.
Yeah, he's just fine. Glad to see you're back, John, by the way.
Yeah.
All right.
I kept talking.
It finally came back. I think my computer troubles now are creating by not having a printer. But anyway, so Royal Birkdale in July, and then the majors are done. And basically, the golf season's over, although we do have President's Cup this year. And Wyndham Clark's going to be on that too, and I wouldn't be one bit surprised if the entire time he wears a hockey jersey. I think that's cool, and I'm surprised that didn't win. I'm surprised that didn't win him back a few fans by going into Canada and on the rink hole wearing Jack Hughes' jersey. But obviously, people are just
I'm going to save that because I got something I want to say about that later. So you'll see. Because I have some theories on that. Yeah, that's glad you brought that up. That's good. It gives me a nice little potential segue into it later.
All right, the 941 Sports Zone brought to you as always by Mighty Dog Roofing of Southwest Florida, locally owned, nationally backed, delivering exceptional roofing from up and down the Gulf Coast. 941-251-4257 is the number. 941-251-4257. Lots to talk about in college sports. Some breaking news from this morning, and I thought it was really interesting. As somebody who follows Ohio State, I was blown away by this. Dusty May, who of course took Florida Atlantic to the Final Four a couple of years ago and took Michigan to the Natty last year, is leaving Michigan and heading to the Dallas Mavericks. The Mavericks have reportedly, it's according to USA Today Sports and a couple of other outlets, it's a done deal. Mavericks are hiring Dusty May to be their coach. They've got a very young team. He did a great job with Michigan last year. Got all those players to mesh to win the national championship. Saw the opportunity. I'm sure they threw a boatload of money on him. I haven't seen exactly how much it is, John, but I don't know about you, but I was floored. And this tells me also that things at Michigan might be a little murkier than even we know and think they are. What do you think?
Well, this leads to I get a little bit a bad taste in my mouth about this. I was, I get the NIL, I get the transfer portal, I get all that stuff, right? But this guy has done nothing but try to buy teams up, okay? The FAU thing, he got all the transfers in, I get all that, and he parlays that into a Michigan situation where everybody on that team was not on the team the year before. Brand new everything, right? You get all these guys in here, and then you're recruiting carpetbaggers because you are a carpetbagger. You're just on to the next thing. If I'm Michigan, I'm probably pretty pissed off right now. About all of a sudden this guy just used us as a platform. Now, hey, are you going to complain? You won a national championship. You bought into the concept of buying a championship, okay? But now, because who's the guy going to take over and do what he did, okay? Or try to, I don't know. Maybe there is somebody. Ultimately, a guy leaves Michigan. I'm a strong believer. I'm a strong believer that in college basketball in particular, that it is a more prestigious job to be a college basketball coach than it is an NBA coach. Because you and I could probably, and we have a lot of knowledge between the two of us, we could probably knock around and say, hey, who's the coach at wherever in big time schools? We could probably between the two of us, knock a bunch of them out. I don't know if we could knock out 5 in the NBA because we just saw the playoffs were fresh, because we don't know. And you saw when LeBron first went to the Lakers, it didn't matter who the coach was, as long as they were going to listen to LeBron, because that's what happens. The Knicks, looking at this, the Knicks are the team that the coach and the players were in lockstep with each other. They love each other. It had much more of a college feel to it, where, hey, we're in this together, whatnot. Even somebody had said that, hey, the whole Villanova scenario, where it was you had Hart and you had Brunson and you had Bridges, and then you had DiVincenzo from the year before. You had all these guys from Villanova, and they had that camaraderie, that love for each other, whatever you have. And the Knicks won. They weren't the odds-on favorite, but they were. What did I say before? They had the best basketball team, not the best athlete, the best basketball team in there, and they won. Now you look at this and you say to yourself, so he's going to go to Dallas. He's got Cooper Flagg. I'm sure that Mark Cuban's offered him, I can get you this guy or that guy, whatever it may be. Is his coaching going to matter at all? No. He's just going to be now he's not even the general manager of his team anymore. He's a guy who's just going to be a babysitter, ride the front seat of the bus and make sure he doesn't get in trouble. That's all it's going to be. So he turned it in, one bag of money for another bag of money to the biggest bag of money. That's what he did. And I think it sort of stinks. And if I'm Michigan, I'm like, don't the door hit you in the ass. I don't want to see you again. Just go.
But John, they've got big problems in their athletic department. if you're Dusty May and you get another offer and you have any inkling that something could be coming down there, don't you pull the ripcord? I mean, I'm pulling the ripcord. I'm getting the hell out of there.
Well, here's the deal. I don't know. Why? The biggest question, I might be more agreeable to that, the Michigan problems, except why would I'm missing the Utah coach who's been there? Why would he go from that situation to Michigan?
Kyle Whittingham.
Yep. Yeah, he goes there. I was like,
Yep.
Really? That's a problem up there. But he goes. So why did he go? Did they offer him boatloads of money? He's been offered boatloads of money. I can't tell you how many times he's been offered boatloads of money and said, no, I'm good. This is my home. This is where I'm at. But he moves to Michigan, and based on what you're saying too, that there's problems there. I can't imagine why he would go there if it was as bad as it could be. I just think that Dusty May won his natty, and I think that this doesn't happen overnight. Okay, this did not happen overnight. And I want to know, did somebody reach out to him from the NBA? Because I wouldn't have even considered him for the NBA. I would not have even considered it. This has got to be somebody who went back and said, hey, Mr. Agent, you know my formula here. I parlay one big paycheck to a bigger paycheck. So let's put it out there that I'm ready for the taking. And lo and behold, Mark Cuban took a bite.
Yeah. It'll be with Michigan and who's going to be in next. Mavericks were, of course, without a coach, in the middle of the playoffs. Some other college news, not too long after we signed off last week, Brendan Sorsby got apparently the word, and Texas Tech got the word that the NCAA was serious, and also the Big 12. I think more importantly, the Big 12 was very serious about taking this thing right through the courts. And I think in the end, Texas Tech basically went to Brendan Sorsby and said, listen, we're not going to win this fight. We need to head to greener, we need to cut the bait here. You need to go into the NFL. So the NFL draft set up for him. And let's get John back on the stage here. Hopefully we got a better connection. I don't see John. There he is. All right, great. I was just going to say Sorsby, obviously after some consultation, and I think Texas Tech was the one that pulled the plug and basically said, listen, guys, they're dead serious. They're going to take this wherever it needs to go, and it's just not going to be good. And we need to move on, and we need to try to save some face here. You need to go to the supplemental draft. And it happened so fast. It has me shaking my head. Texas Tech was, they had boots in the ground. They drew a line in the sand, and the next minute they're gone. I would love to know what the behind the scenes was there for them to do that.
Rich, I think that the higher ups got some calls from other schools and said, we will not play you. We're serious about this. We will not play you. And when you're being told that you're an outlier, and it's over a quarterback that might have some first, second, third round ability, the program is bigger than the one guy. And if you're really out to help to get the kid, which they're not, with that's where they come into the play. Oh, we're here for the student athlete. The guy has a major gambling problem, and he has no accountability. He is going to do it again. He's going to mess up, okay? But you giving him this opportunity that he does not deserve or fighting for that opportunity makes no sense. And I think they got together and said, we're going to all lose in this scenario if we don't do something the right way. And they got together and they said, go now. And they probably had to make sure that he was going to get the supplemental draft qualification or whatever they have to get for that. And he's in. I don't know if somebody takes him.
They got
to go through all the draft.
The thing. Caveat here.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing that says they absolutely will here. He could end up as a man without a country, so to speak.
Yes, that's 100% right. So we'll see. Anybody who has, I mean, it's an illness, whatever, we talked about gambling and, it's a problem, but you just you can't let that thing go the way it was going. It was just going to be a catastrophe. This is the main rule. And if you show any weakness on that, then you've opened up Pandora's box.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And then let's go to on the field action in college. The final championship, if you will, I would guess, for this year is the Men's College World Series. It's tied at a game apiece. Oklahoma came out bats a-blazing on Saturday in a game that was actually moved up because of impending weather. They did a good job there because, from what I understand, about 45 minutes after the game ended, the skies opened up. So good job by the NCAA there and their broadcast partner at ESPN as well. North Carolina came back on Sunday, bats a-blazing and pitching very well themselves. They win game 2, 6-2. So it sets up a Monday night winner take all, 7:00 on the 4-letter. And in recent past, John, the team that has won game 2 has more often than not won game 3. So you'd have to think a little bit advantage North Carolina, although Oklahoma was an unseeded team and they're all the way into the final game here.
They were 500. They were not. I mean, they got in, by the skin of their teeth, and have plowed their way through to the final game of the year. So we'll see what happens. I won't say any more about that because this could be something that I talk about later.
Okay, all righty then.
Possible,
we'll just move on. We'll just move on and move on to the next subject, and that is the NBA draft, which comes up on Tuesday night. Again, we're recording Monday afternoon as we speak. I'm checking as we look. There's still no Giannis trade as of yet. All the latest news that it's been coming out of both Miami and Boston is that they appear to be the finalists to trade for Giannis. And I think it's interesting, John. Boston obviously has a major chip in Jaylen Brown, and it looks for all the world he's going. Whether he goes to Milwaukee or he goes somewhere else, it sure sounds like up here in these parts that Jaylen Brown is not going to be a Celtic next year. Between Jason Tatum, they're both making $300 million each. That's a lot. Desperately stressed that they want to get below that second apron. But it'll be interesting to see if Miami has anything to offer because they don't have draft capital because they've made some trades. And then do you go with Bam and Giannis, or do you go with Tyler Hero and Giannis and trade everybody else away? This should be a wild 24 hours here.
I agree. And if I'm looking at it between the two teams, I think I'm not a fan of Giannis going to Boston. I'm not sure he's going to help them as much as maybe they want to think he will. He would help Miami more, I believe. So I think the winner, if Miami got him, I think it's a winning proposition for them. I'm not convinced it's going to help Boston. As a matter of fact, I'm a Knick fan, right? So I'm looking at it now and say, okay, you're not making yourself better. You've kind of moved a few pieces around, and maybe that makes the Knicks even. I'm not sure Boston would be much more of a favorite. It could be, but I don't see where this is making them much better. And Giannis is, he's been on the trading block for 6 years now. So they're probably going to pull the plug on it. We'll see if that really actually happens.
Well, the fact that he didn't play a lot last year, I think, has basically left a terrible taste in Milwaukee's mouth, and they feel it's time. He's only got 1 year left on his contract, which is another thing. Right. He could be a 1 year rental, and then he could be on the move again, depending on, where he ends up and if he really wants to be there.
Yeah. I look at this, if Boston pulls this deal, it's almost a little bit of a reboot for the Celtics. They're retooling some stuff.
Because they're going to have to give up some pieces as well. So that should be very interesting. Now, the draft itself, John, particularly at top 5 or 6, expected picks in the lottery, I think, are all impact players. I've seen a lot of mock drafts. Most of them, and this is really interesting, most of them have AJ Dybantsa going number 1 to the Wizards and Darren Peterson going number 2 to the Jazz. However, Peterson only worked out for the Wizards. So if you're the Jazz, if you're the Grizzlies, if you're the Bulls, if you're anybody, do you really want to take that chance after the freshman year he had and the time he took off? And if I'm a GM in the lottery, I'm shaking my head. I mean, I get towards the bottom. Thunder at 12. Obviously, they would Warriors at 11. But I mean, I'm not sure I trust him.
There's nothing about this kid's career starting that even remotely makes me comfortable drafting him. Nothing. I would not. I know he's talented. I get it. But there is nothing that if I'm an NBA guy that I want this guy at all. I don't see where he's leaps and bounds better than the next 5 guys. I don't think he is. I really don't think he is. I like the kid from Illinois. I definitely like the kid from BYU. There's a lot of guys that you can look at. How about Boozer? Boozer's going to be a double guy. There's no doubt about it. So I look at those and say that there's a lot of talent out there, and I don't need a guy who dictates his playing time on his college team as a freshman, who's dictating who's going to see him work out. There's nothing but disaster waiting for this to happen. There's nothing. He could be great. He could be a guy that's going to be as a rookie. Let's say he goes 16, 9, and 5. Let's just say that's kind of a line he puts up there. We could get him rookie of the year. How do I know he's not going to play for 25 or 30 games? This is where bad teams stay bad, okay? Because they're going to pick a guy that has a little bit of a character issue at this point. I'm not talking about he's not a criminal, but he's definitely got a problem with what he's a control guy. If I'm a coach for the Wizards, I'm like, please don't do this to me. I got to deal with this guy. Plus, you get Trae Young, that's on the Wizards, who's stating that he doesn't want to be around.
Yeah, he wants to get the hell out of there. Yeah.
So it's like, no, you place one headache with another headache. It doesn't work. And I'm going to go back to the Knicks again because I'm stuck on the Knicks. Character, how much different was it? We saw Wemby act like a baby, right? We saw all the other what's his face, Castle act like a baby, and you get these guys if they can jump out of the gym and they can do whatever. You know what? They got punched in the face and they didn't like it. And now, and they can figure it out, but they didn't figure it out this time. And and the Wizards are bad. They're going to be bad, but I don't want that guy. I don't want that guy at all. Give me a guy with some character. I'll trade down if somebody wants him real bad, if that's the case. Yeah.
Interesting too, because most of the players that are on this list, the top 5, 6 are freshmen.
Yeah.
Or only played 1 year. Very few exceptions. I think the kid from Illinois played a couple of years, and you're talking about
Wagler.
Yeah, Keaton Wagler. And most of the mocks have him going to either the Bulls or the Clippers. It'd be interesting to see if he goes to the Clippers. Clippers were a team that played very well in the second half of the year and could be a team on the come, although they are in the West and have to deal with San Antonio and OKC. OKC's already making trades. They got rid of Wiggins. So now, and they've got too many draft picks to sign. I mean, they're going to have issues with the cap, and I know they don't want to go into the second apron. Caleb Wilson, I think, is interesting. He could end up either in Memphis or in Chicago. Darius Acuff, a kid I like. I think that John Calipari got a lot out of last year at Arkansas. I think he's a guy. He's kind of looking to be out of the top 5 or so, but somebody could jump in, especially if Peterson doesn't get picked. He could end up in with the Clippers or the Bulls as well. So at least it's a draft that has some talent. And it's homegrown talent. The last few years, it's been guys coming in from overseas, coming in from Europe. It looks like a lot of these kids that are on the, in the quote unquote lottery, which is the top 14 picks, most of them played here, college basketball here in the U.S.
Yeah. I will say this. We mentioned OKC. Interesting is you bring them up because I was thinking about it as well. With all those draft picks, they said they've got whatever they got. OKC needed another scorer last year.
Yes.
If you looked at the guys, Dort and the other guy, the couple of the guys that were just not prolific scorers. They could give you a game here and there, but you don't know who was going to be the one to do it. Take a little pressure off of Chet Holmgren. Make him not. I mean, he's a second option. He looked like the ninth option in the last game or two against
Yes.
San Antonio. So get a little chance to get a little more athletic and maybe somebody who's an actual can get his own shot off. You know what I'm saying? SGA is going to be he's that point guard kind of guy, ball in his hand kind of guy. But I don't know if he's looking around the perimeter and seeing anybody he can kick it to that he knows can get 30. They need a guy who can get 30 when he's getting muscled. He'll make him better. I think it's a simple process. So if I've got 6 or 7 draft picks or 5 or whatever, take them. Who wants it? I'll move up and get the guy I want, or we'll figure something out because they need a scorer. There's no doubt about that. And other teams, like I said, need a lot of players. So change your roster over if you're in the top 5 and get out of that Peterson situation if you can.
Yeah, well, they missed Williams big time in the playoffs. I mean, he was the second option, and he was not the same after his injury. And, the fact that he couldn't play, I think, was big. And, he comes back next year and is Robin to, SGA's Batman like he was 2 years ago. They're in my opinion, they're the clear favorites to come out of the West again.
You'd think, like I said, but if you had one more guy to score, and we've seen great basketball teams over the years. And normally it's 3 guys. Normally there's 3 guys that make the difference. 2 guys, they need that third. They need that third guy. I think that's what it's going to be. Yeah. So I think we'll see what happens.
All right. 941 Sports Zone presented by Mighty Dog Roofing of Southwest Florida. 941-251-4257. 941-251-4257. We'll keep our eyes to see if anything happens before we get on out of here in about a half an hour or so. World Cup. Let's start with some breaking news. As about 15, 20 minutes ago, Lionel Messi scored not once, but he scored twice. He scored in stoppage time as Argentina won 2-0 over Austria, and he now has the record, men's and women's. He was sharing it with Marta from Brazil on the women's side for most goals in World Cup history with 17. He's now surpassed her. All 5 of Argentina's goals by Messi. They win 3-0 and 2-0. And everybody said, and this is the great thing, John, everybody said when he came to the U.S. and he played in the MLS that, he was coming here to get things easy and his game was going to fall off. If anything, he's gotten better. I tell you, he looks tremendous out there, and without him, Argentina's nothing.
I think playing in the United States has prolonged his career, Rich, because you're not seeing him with the travel and everything else that goes along with it. People don't realize that these soccer is a long season, and after their season's over, they're playing for their country and they're playing for the different championships, Euro championships, and everything else. And Messi lives, if he lived in Argentina, he's living away from home for forever. Now he's sort of got his life is centralized. He's making good money. So I think it's prolonged his career, and he can put all his chips in right now and give it all he's got for another run at a World Cup.
Yeah, no question about it. Another team that many feel is making a run at the World Cup is Team USA. I'd say pump the brakes a little bit, but 2-0 win over Australia. Got your lock of the week home last week, John. We haven't exactly beaten, world beaters in Paraguay and Australia, but we're on to the next round. And if we can beat Turkey, we could get one of the weakest third place teams in the round of 32. And, you and I talked about this last week. What would be considered a a successful tournament for Team USA. I said the round of 16. I can't remember what you said. Did you say round of 8 or were
I
you
think
saying
so.
16
Yeah,
as
I
well?
think I said yeah.
And it's I think it is the injury to Christian Pulisic. He didn't Australia. He, did his thing and was able to um, in the next game because that's nothing more than a positioning game, and I think they can beat Turkey
Yes.
without him. Uh, the question is now, does he get a little too much rust? Can he get back in time for the third place game, which I believe, or the next game, which is in the round of 32 against the third place team, which apparently is going to be July 1st in Santa Clara, California. Can that happen? I don't know if it even needs to happen then, but he definitely needs to be back by the round of 16 because the water gets much deeper.
So I have I don't see where like golf. I can see you can get in rust with golf. I can see you having rust as a Major League Baseball player trying to hit a baseball, a quarterback throwing a football, that kind of thing. I'm not so sure soccer that you could get too rusty. I mean, I guess you got to get up to speed, maybe cardio wise, running around.
Yes,
wise,
conditioning. That to me would be the problem.
But yeah. I think that's I think I think he can step right in. One thing I will say to you, so again, you and I have talked about this before in other sports. Sometimes things pass the eye test. Okay. I think, and I'm not sure that everybody who's jumped on the USA bandwagon is thinking the same way. But over the years, you say to yourself, why do we have such great athletes in this country, but all the other sports, sprinters and basketball players and football players, you name it. Why can't we find 15 guys, athletes that can actually play this game and be dominant? Well, I'm looking around at this team, Rich, and there's athletes.
Yes, there are.
There are athletes. This is not the 5'5" guy coming off his college team and he's going to get his chance to play on the U.S. team. These are dudes, okay? Sons of NFL players. They're jumping higher, they're running stronger, and in a very physical game against Australia, they won the physicality battle as well. Not that they were trying to run people over, but they were not getting knocked down. There wasn't a lot of the dramatics that you see in a lot of different cases. USA was out there and they got their goals early and got physical and did not let Australia kind of get any momentum. Again, this could be the template for what you look for a USA team. Let's not try to be the next Spain or the next Argentina or the next Brazil. Let's be what we can be. Line up, and you're looking at the team you're going to face, and you're a foot and a half taller than all of them. You know what I mean? Hey, the average soccer player is 5'11", but the U.S. team averages 6'3", and they can run and they can jump and they can do everything they need to do. This is where the U.S. needs to look at a template to be a World Cup champion. Change the narrative. Make it your game. Don't play somebody else's game. Make it your game. Just like everything else. Make it yours. Be that guy. And I think this is where they might be headed. Purely speculation, only looking at it from the eye test. I'm not getting into strategy and this and that. This is just what I'm looking at. And if I'm looking right, I'm seeing a transformation into what the USA team could be.
Sure. And I think, I think get to the round of 16, be competitive in that game. Dare I say, if they get to the round of 8, I think that's a tremendously successful tournament.
Absolutely.
But I'm still, they should beat Turkey. Turkey has absolutely nothing. They've been eliminated. They have nothing to play for, which can be a dangerous thing, especially in soccer, because they could take out their frustration on Team USA. So coaching here is going to be a thing. If the game is a little bit rough, the USA probably starts subbing in, and
Right.
You're allowed 5 subs. You get your best players off the pitch, and be that as it may. Some of the other teams, the Spain, who struggled in the first game, got back on track on Sunday with a pretty easy win. Didn't even realize this. That was their first win in 5 World Cup games. Wow, that is amazing. They're the betting favorite to win.
They've been that way for like the last 2 World Cups. I thought they were the betting favorite.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I mean, again, that's complacency. That's coaching. That's something, because if you're that good, you don't go 0-0 against Cape Verde or whatever it is. You don't do that. You go out and win like Germany did, or then they beat somebody 7-1.
Correct.
That's what you go do.
Tunisia. They beat Tunisia and the coach got fired. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Just go out there and go win those. Why would you play around with that? Because that's what you're doing.
Right.
You're jerking around. And by the way, did they decide to not play some of their players? I don't know that. I didn't look into it, but did they take that strategy? Like, well, this is an easy one. We'll need him for the next game, or whatever it may be, and then try to get back up to speed when you're 0-0. I don't know. But if you're the favorite, again, this has now become somewhat like March Madness. There's going to be a 1-16. Now it's not a 1-16, but the best team's going to play the worst team, and you can't get jammed up and go 0-0 and not get those points. That's gonna be a big problem moving forward.
All right, so continues. Team USA's next game is Thursday night against Turkey. It's a pretty big game, 10 o'clock Eastern time. Pretty much, it's not a done deal, but pretty much July 1st in Santa Clara. So they're staying out west, at least for the time being. Team USA. Eventually, if they want to get to the later rounds, they're going to have to move east, because the final, last time I checked, that's at the Meadowlands. That's about as east as you can get, short of where I am in Boston.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I thought it was kind of interesting too. For FIFA does not want to hear the corporate sponsors' names. They've changed all this. Boston Stadium, Los Angeles Stadium, whatever. Did you see what they did up here in Boston? I got to give a tip of the cap to Robert Kraft. They basically covered the name with shaving cream. And it looks just like shaving cream. I think that's absolutely awesome. Yeah, you know what? I can't say it, so I'm going to go ahead and, everybody knows, but now I'm going to even bring more attention to it.
Right.
Which I'm sure pissed FIFA off, but too bad. So
too bad.
Sad.
Too bad for that.
I'm sad that the Scots left. They left on Saturday. Some went home. The ones that were at my hotel, some went home, and some made the trip down to Miami. They've got a game with Brazil coming up, and they've got to get at least a point to move on to the next round. Many people think so. Should be a very interesting game, but boy, were they fun. And
extra lock of the week.
Took a
little extra lock of the week is Scotland's going to buy out all the beer in Miami as well as they did in Boston.
Yes. No Sam Adams around for a while.
It's going to be really freaking hot in Miami. They'll need those cold beers if they're drinking them cold, but they'll need some cold beers. Cold.
They're drinking them cold. They have it down pat. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about our Rays, who had a very rough road trip out west. They lost 5 out of 6 to the Angels and 3 one-run heartbreakers to the Dodgers. 2 of the games they had a lead. The other game they lost 1-0. I mean, they proved they could play with the Dodgers. The good news is they came home. We talked about this last week. They have the longest homestand of the year, 10 games, and they have 3 teams that they should be able to handle. They took 2 out of 3 against Washington. The game they lost, just mistakes. They left 11 guys on base. Caminero on an overthrow jogs into second base and gets tagged in attention, which, just stinks, but nonetheless, they 2 out of 3, 26-10 at home. And you might be hearing about this a little later, but they got 4 with Kansas City and then 3 with a pretty good Arizona team. I mean, Arizona's, no joke. They're out in the West where the Dodgers and the Padres are. and they're holding their own. So that's not going to be easy. But nonetheless, the Rays have actually made up some ground. Yankees lost 2 out of 3 to the Reds over the weekend. And while the Rays were winning 2 out of 3, the lead is down to 2 in the AL East as the Rays continue to move along. John, we're almost to the halfway point already.
Yeah,
of the baseball season.
That's
hard to believe the All-Star game's 3 weeks away.
Yeah. Like I said, Rich, watching the Rays is very frustrating.
Yes, it is.
Following the Rays can be very frustrating. But, understandable. Those one-loss game or one-run losses to the Dodgers, it's just indicative that the Rays are just that far away from being good. And it's you can look at it and say, well, that seems pretty easy to say. Well, it kind of is, because when they need that little to get over the hump, they just don't quite have it sometimes, more times than not. I think it's funny, playing well at home. The Trop, okay, it's going to go down in history as one of the worst, home field scenarios, whatever you want to say. But it's done it we need to do. You don't have to worry about lightning and thunderstorms and all that different stuff. But
you're going to play.
I think if you come in to play the Rays, you walk in that place and it's like, what is this? It's like a big garage or whatever it may be. And I think there's sort of maybe a letdown. Maybe there's no energy for either. The Rays are used to it, and the other teams, there's no energy off the crowd or whatever it may be. So maybe the Trop's been a hidden gem for a home field for longer than we think, and maybe for the wrong reasons, but it has been. I think they're going to keep on plodding along this year. They're going to be right there. It's going to come down to, I've said it a couple weeks ago, July 31st, when there's time to make some moves and things that they can do. Are they going to be buyers or are they going to be sellers? Does it depend if I don't think they'll be too far away from the playoff spot. If not, whatever. I just got to figure that someone's got to make a decision. And if you're a fan, obviously you want them to buy and keep going, but you don't know. You don't really know what this ownership and this management team is going to do. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, last year was not really indicative. They really weren't in the mix, so to speak. Certainly, you could see towards the end of the year the fatigue by playing all those games outdoors in Tampa. Say what you want, that heat really.
Yeah.
I mean, the Cubs just talk about it all the time when they play nothing but Tampa. I look forward to, the trade deadline's actually, I believe it's August 3rd this year. So it's a couple days after July 31st. And there's only one. After August 3rd, no more. There's no waiver deadline or anything like that. So it'll be very interesting to see. But it's good to see them bounce back and get the 2 out of 3. Kansas City, like I said, is in for 4. You have to take at the very least 3 out of 4 in my opinion.
Right.
Kansas City is a team that's really struggling. You walk Bobby Witt 15 times in the series. You make sure he doesn't beat you.
Right.
And even Castiglione, the former Florida Gator, who's had a very up and down season, but he's a dangerous cat too. So, but really, other than Salvador Perez, who's again, he's starting to get a little long in the tooth. They don't have. They don't have very much. And then on the mound, they've really struggled this year. So you've got to take advantage of the situation. And then Arizona comes in and then they go on the road for an extended period right before the All-Star break. So it'll be a fun time. I did watch. One thing I'm fairly certain and comfortable with is Brian Baker closing. He has 20 saves now.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't say
you can't fake that.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And even Kevin Cash, who is master of the obvious, the complete opposite of that. Well, who's your closer? Well, I don't know. It depends on the day. Yeah, no, it's Brian Baker, and he's pitched very well this year. And the starters have gone through little bumps in the road. Martinez has been back and forth. Jax has been a kind of a revelation since they put him in the starting rotation. He was good the other day. Deserved better in LA, as they all did. He gave a 1 unearned run when he pitched out there. So, I like where they're at. I like where their head is at, and they've got the right manager with the right temperament. We've talked about this 100 times. Kevin Cash is
that's
the
why
guy. Yeah.
I'm confident to say they're going to be in the hunt come trade deadline because Kevin Cash. You just know he's going to figure something out, and I look at the rest of the division where they seem like they're almost falling apart. You know what I mean? So it's and the Rays aren't. The Rays are
Toronto's starting to come. They're a game under 500.
Yeah, you're right.
They were second half team last year, so you gotta keep an eye on them. You have to keep taking care of them when you play them. That's the big thing. Is
right.
The one thing the Rays have done very well this year is played very well against the American League East.
Yeah.
So I'm at home this year.
You there?
We'll see how that goes. All right. Presented by Mighty Dog Roofing of Southwest Florida. 9 going off again. There we go.
Yeah.
Mighty Dog Roofing of Southwest Florida. Let's give it again. 941-251-4257 is the number. Man, we've having some weather up here, and I wonder if that's in a little bit to do with it.
It probably is. It does seem
all right.
like a
couple of things going on. The NHL draft is the NHL draft is Friday night. Carolina had their parade Saturday, had a very nice turnout in Raleigh, about 150,000. When you consider the city's only about 500,000, that's a very good turnout. Much different than, I guess, when they won back in 2006, they had like 8,000 outside. So good on them. Hockey is taking hold in the South. Yeah. The Lightning made some news this week, and it wasn't the kind that fans are going to like, but I think this ends up being good for Tampa Bay. Darren Radish had himself one hell of a year, and it was on a final year of his contract. The Lightning offered 5 years. They were never going to offer 8 years. They found a trade partner, and wouldn't you know, it's the Toronto Maple Leafs. They go 8 years, $66 million, do a little sign and trade. The Lightning are very short on draft capital. They've kind of been mortgaging their future year after year to keep themselves relevant. Good on Radish to get the money. I'm sad. He had a tremendous year, although I really thought he wore down as we got to the end of the year and towards the playoffs.
I thought he didn't do much in that series either. So I mean, there's a little bit of that. Like, where was everybody in that thing? Point didn't show up. A couple of guys didn't show up.
Yeah. So Radish, good luck. The Lightning obviously will be in the market for a defenseman. We'll see what's out there. There really isn't all that much. The word is that the free agent market, even though everybody has an extra 13-14 million to spend as the salary cap went up, there really isn't that much free agency. To that end, Brady Tkachuk is on the move with 2 years left on his contract. He goes down to South Florida and is going to play with brother Matthew Tkachuk.
It's the 2026 version of the Hanson brothers.
That's great. Except these guys
kick everybody's ass. I don't want to play those guys.
Yeah, except he's
in the same line. Yeah.
Yeah, but these guys can score. They're skilled too.
They are the complete package, and you get both of them together. What you saw in the Olympics with them, obviously they're both leaders. They're both guys that don't take any crap. Look at Brady when before the first game of the playoffs. What's he do? He gets in a fist fight before the game even starts. So good to see.
Yeah. Yeah. So he's down in Florida. They've got 2 years. He's got 2 years left on his contract. I think Ottawa saw the handwriting on the wall. He basically wasn't going to re-sign, so they tried to get as much as they could. They did get 3 number 1 picks out of the deal, including 2 this year, including Florida's number 9 overall. So we'll see how that works. But in hockey, it's much more of a crapshoot. Hockey's more like baseball than the NBA or the NFL.
Yeah, I agree.
There's no guarantees. Even top 10 picks a lot of times don't make it.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely right.
But Ottawa wasn't going to get nothing for it, and they looked at the handwriting on the wall and said, the longer he stays, the longer the chance we have not to get anything. So they moved him. Interesting. There's been quite a bit of movement out with the stars in Canada that have come to the U.S. And it started with the late Johnny Gaudreau, who went from Calgary to Columbus. And that was about 4 years ago. And there's been a lot of this. And again, the teams up north in Canada are squawking. They're like, hey, they have a clear advantage down there. It's not their fault that they don't have state tax, but hey, they can play the salary cap game. I'm not sure this is going to get any better before it gets worse.
How many Canadian teams are there? 8? Am I short?
Is it 7 or 8? That's an interesting question. You go with
so
your
my
point.
point
I'll
is
look up.
this. So you own a hockey franchise in Canada, right? Shouldn't you be printing money if you're a Canadian? Because it's the sport that everybody follows, right? It's the everybody's about hockey. So you can't overspend a little in comparison to keep guys around. You have to. Listen. The Rams, the 49ers, the Jets, you name all those teams.
Giants, yep.
They got huge taxes that these players have to pay. And they got to overpay their guys a little bit. That's all they can do, right? So right. I'm just looking at it and saying, if you own one of the few Canadian hockey teams, then just be that guy. Don't go into it and saying, "Oh, we got a disadvantage." Maybe the weather's a disadvantage, but don't talk about money. If you're going to talk about money, then boo-hoo. You got to figure it out. You bought into it. Don't tell. If I'm a Canadian, if I'm a fan of the Ottawa Senators or Toronto Maple Leafs, and they start talking about money, I'm like, shut up. We fill the arenas. We buy all the stuff. You should have money. Should not be in your vocabulary at this time.
I know where you're going. Oh,
so,
okay. Go ahead, John.
Are you good?
Anyway, 7 is the number, by the way. 7. Canadians, Maple Leafs, Canucks, Oilers, Flames, Jets, and Senators. Oilers are the interesting team. And again, they have a star player who might want to head south. And to me, Edmonton's case is go out and get a freaking goalie. I mean, they made the finals the last 2 years before this year. They've got enough talent. Go get a goalie. I mean, that to me is where that franchise has screwed this up.
Right. And, back in the day, Edmonton was the smallest market out there for a franchise. Glenn Sather went bankrupt trying to keep that hockey team in place and won 4 cups, mind you. Okay. And then finally he had to ship Gretzky off because it just was he couldn't afford it, but he won a bunch before he got rid of his prized possession, obviously, or prized possessions in that case. So I look at that Edmonton situation and say, look at what they did back in the day. Montreal is one franchise has always been pumped full of money. They're always seem to be in good shape. But look at Edmonton, and they showed you what it took to do it, and they won 4 in a row and had the greatest player of all time on their roster. So there's ways to do it. So I think that these teams that are going to complain about money, there's your prime example right there.
All right. So we have reached the point of the locks of the week. And I was feeling really good going into Saturday. Matt Fitzpatrick was tied for second. He was going to play with Wyndham Clark. He was the guy that was going to put the pressure on Wyndham Clark. And the exact opposite happened. Fitzpatrick had a less than stellar weekend. And that's being kind.
Did he beat his brother?
That's a great question. He was only one ahead of him.
I think they might have tied. When I was looking at the scroll last night, I think they might have tied. But
you might be right there.
But Matt Fitzpatrick, watching him, he looked like a guy. He looked like me on the golf course. His shirt was falling out of his pants. He looked disheveled. He was going for it. I give him credit. He didn't give up. But boy, that course took a lot out of him. I can promise you that.
Well, it took a lot out of everybody, and I'm trying to get you the answer to the question. I really want to, because it was at one point yesterday. It was literally, I think it was one shot, and his brother has taken full advantage of getting, winning that tournament with him in New Orleans.
Absolutely.
and he had good on him. So I can't find it, and I'm
That's fine.
again for those
They were
watching the
close.
podcast, hanging with us. I know we've had some
They were close.
technical difficulties. So
yeah, no doubt. I thought I had a technical difficulty earlier. So
yeah, no question about it.
So, but again, good showing for both those guys, and it's good to see his brother Alex taking advantage of his opportunity.
So Fitzpatrick falling out of the top 20 or top 10. I thought I was sandbagging, and he fell all the way to 23rd, alone in 23rd, which I thought was kind of interesting. So I'm now 21-17 with my locks of the week. Meanwhile, you took the U.S. against Australia, got yourself back in the win column. So you're 23-15, 2 games ahead of me. And you want to go, since you have the honors, you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
You go first. You go first.
All right. I'm going to say, and they're only 2-1 so far, but I think the Rays are going to go at the very least 7-3 on this homestand. And by doing that, they're going to have to win 3 out of 4 against Kansas City and 2 out of 3 against Arizona. And where I think they can win 3 out of 4 against Kansas City, I'm not as sure about the 2 out of 3 against Arizona. As a matter of fact, let's sweep the Royals, and then I can just win 1 out of 3 and get to where I need to be. So I was trying to look at a whole bunch of other stuff, and you know what? That's to me, that's just the Rays are 26-10 at home. If you're 26-10 at home, you should be able to go 7-3 on a homestand. So simply put, I'll take the Rays in that situation. All right. What say you? I think I know where you're going here.
Yeah. So I'll tell you the truth. I was looking at 2 things, but I'm going to stick with my first choice. Oklahoma wins the national championship tonight.
Wow.
I know Carolina's been a pretty steady team all year, but Oklahoma, it's sometimes a good story just turns out to be where it goes, and it's a good story. The players seem to have adopted this sort of like devil may care, let's go for it kind of mentality. The catcher on Oklahoma swings at everything and hits it everywhere. It's kind of cool. Oklahoma's always been a pretty good program too. I thought this is not some outlandish kind of thing. They just had a rough regular season and they've turned it on, I think. So I say Oklahoma wins the national championship. I'll give you one bonus just for out there if anybody's thinking. We thought to mention earlier too, when I was kicking around, I think it's kind of obvious. Turkey will beat the United States.
Wow. Really?
Because here's why. They're all locked up. I think they are going to rest people. I'm hearing it from the soccer pundits. Rest 5 or 6 guys. Get ready for the next. You've already got your place in them, and all the different stuff. I think with that being the case, I could see Turkey beating the United States. But I'm going to stick with my Oklahoma pick.
Interesting. All right. But your official pick is Oklahoma on Monday night for the Natty. Yep. Hopefully weather won't get involved because, So, all right. So you take Oklahoma. I take the Rays 7-3 on their homestand. All right. Time for our segment called What's Bugging Me. John, you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
You can go first again because I've been stealing your thunder a couple of times, so you can go ahead and go first.
Yeah, they're stealing my thunder. It's just I could go the easy way out here and just rip on the New York fans again, but that's just too darn easy. I'm over guys like Darren Peterson for the NBA draft.
Yeah.
And again, we kind of talked about this. You mean he's going to only go to the Wizards who have the number 1 pick? He basically gave Washington a preview and then said, pick me or somebody else is going to have to roll the dice and take a chance. And I would be shocked if the Wizards drafted him at this point. Because again, it's a character issue. And like you said, I mean, we've got some teams here, the Wizards, the Jazz, the Grizzlies, the Bulls especially. A lot of people are really down on the Bulls. if one of those teams takes them, you mentioned it earlier, John. Losing begets losing, and if you take a shot at him, you're really rolling the dice. I think you want something much more. I would take Acuff, who's clearly not clearly, but he's a cut below the top five. But I think he's more of a John Calipari guys, and you've seen him in the playoffs. You've seen him in the NBA Finals. Calipari loves his guys, and they play. They play for
Right.
him, and then they
Right.
play in the NBA. And you can say what you want about Calipari. You can say what you want about all the titles he had to vacate. But listen, he knows how to get the most out of his guys. And I would take Acuff before I take
he is what
Peterson
he is.
and I called him Patterson. Sorry, Peterson.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I can't go there. I can't.
Right. I agree. I totally understand. Like I said, he's shown nothing but this
frozen by.
Yeah. We're both frozen. I
am
think,
I stuff there? Oh, there we go. All right.
But
anyway, we better get this show on the road before.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'll go real quick. All right. So I'll let you know what it is. Okay. So I am going to jump on the New York fans. Okay. Because the act is old. The act is tired. Okay. You won a championship with the Knicks. I would say in the Garden, the places you've been, even when you were away at San Antonio and everywhere else, you minded you did look like you behaved yourselves and were good fans. So now you're going to go out there and yell and scream at Wyndham Clark because you want Scotty Scheffler to win. Look, Wyndham Clark, he had the fans screaming and yelling at him in Canada, and rightfully so. He scutched him a little bit, you know what I mean? He gave him a little bit of the business. But he took it and he played well, and he didn't win, but he was right there at the end. Stayed right where he needed to be. New York fans need to figure it out. And there's how do you fix it? Well, starting yesterday, Rich, with people getting taken off the golf course. You want to act that way, scream and yell, you're gone. Okay. And that's on the PGA Tour. That's on the USGA now. Don't allow it. Don't be there. And by the way, there are plenty of other golf courses you can go play. Maybe you pull one and say you're not going to get one until you learn how to behave. And that's just the bottom line. It's silly. Doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And the crowds were minimum. They weren't even that big a crowd because they were all left early on Saturday to get the train home. So they were Wyndham Clark played to nobody on the 18th hole basically on Saturday afternoon. Mm-hmm. So for it to be a problem with the fans not being as many as normally would be out there, and I know the USGA doesn't go and sell a million tickets. They probably have a limit on the tickets they're selling. So these guys who are buying these tickets are spending some money on this stuff to go act like that. Come on, it's gotta stop. It's just sort of silly at this point.
John, the PGA is supposed to be at Bethpage in 2033. Do you threaten to pull it there? I mean, seriously, do you?
I mean, at some point in time, you got to do something. You got to think about it in some way or another. It's the fact of the matter is when you're asking Scotty Scheffler in the post round press conference, and the second question out of your mouth and the third question in your mouth is about the fans. Boy, and guess what? Fans hear that and say, "Yeah, we're the show, not Scotty, right. Not Wyndham, not Jordan. We're the show." When is it going to happen? When you see it where they start to scream in somebody's backswing. That's where it's headed, and they better figure it out quick. If they don't,
I agree.
It's going to be a problem. Are we both stuck? I guess. I'll keep talking. I guess I think we're both frozen. There, you're coming back to life.
I think we're both. There we go.
Yeah, there we go.
And we're going to wrap up this edition of the 941 Sports Zone. Again, we appreciate you sticking with us. Some technical difficulties throughout the day. Hopefully, we'll get them taken care of before next week. I'll certainly do my best on my end. but we're show 44 in the books. We're getting closer and closer to that 1 year anniversary. And we're also getting closer and closer to July 24th, John.
Yes, Media Day is coming up. I've sent the invitations out to the coaches. We have 11 teams committed so far, but that's just the start. And look, again, a lot of enthusiasm from the coaches already. Looking forward to it. So we're excited about that. Going to have a nice bunch of media people there. You leading the festivities from the dais in regards to the questionings of the teams and players, the coaches and players. So we're looking forward to that as well. Carroll GMC, here we are right there. Carroll GMC, put it out there.
There you go. Yep.
They're hosting, as we talk about always, but they're in as well as sponsors and probably looking to be a sponsor with the podcast as well. So we're looking forward to that as well. So everything coming up strong. It's kind of an anniversary for us. It's a launching pad for the rest of for the second year of the podcast. And I think it's going to look a little different too, Rich, as far as things are concerned. I think the technology might get a little bit better, and some other things might get a little bit of a spruce up. But all coming towards that media day, so looking forward to it.
Again, July 24th. Looking forward to coming on down for that, and looking forward to next Monday with the next edition, should say, of the 941 Sports Zone. Might have a special guest next Monday.
Yes, if it all works out okay. Mr. Moneyline might be in town, but we have a lot to ask him because it's not long before high school football season starts, and there have been some changes to things, and we want to make sure we are
some major changes, actually.
Major changes, yes. So we'll have to get caught up on that, make sure we're fully aware of what's going on.
So there's a little tease to join us next Monday or afterwards, wherever you get your podcast, Facebook, formerly known as Twitter, now X, Instagram, and I think my daughter's going to help me start with Apple and Spotify here. So that should be.
I've
really
mentioned
good.
that to both. I mentioned that to other folks. Very excited about that part of it. So we'll see how that works out.
Yeah. All right. Let's get on out of here before we go to black screen again. For John Wire to Wire Masoni, I'm Spitz. Until next week. So long, everybody.